Good morning, everyone. I'm thrilled to join you today to host an important conversation about upskilling. My name is Nikki Da Silva, and I serve as one of our senior directors for programs and policy at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. You might have also seen me running around directing you in different places throughout yesterday, so thank you. Thank you for being open to that and for being here again today. My primary focus at the foundation is working on our talent pipeline management initiative, which is our employer-led, data-driven effort to helping build high-performing talent pipelines. So I'm joined today by both Lydia and Wes, who are going to talk to us a little bit about what their organizations are doing. So if I could start with Lydia, if you could tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. First of all, sorry I can't be with you in person. I'd love to be. I'm recovering from COVID, and I don't think any of you would want me to be there today. I am Lydia Logan. I'm the Vice President for Global Education and Workforce Development at IBM in our Corporate Social Responsibility division. I work to provide our free programs externally around the world. We have a commitment to skill 30 million people by 2030 and 2 million globally in AI, but another 2 million in the United States in AI. The primary way we're doing that is with our Skills Build program, which offers both workplace and technology skilling. We really believe you need both of those in order to be successful in the workplace. I know we'll be getting into that a little bit more with the panel, but thank you so much.
And Wes?
Sure, thanks, Nikki. Wes Parham, Vice President of Public Affairs for Pinnacle Assurance. Pinnacle is a workers' compensation specialist headquartered in Denver, was chartered 110 years ago by our state, and we operate as a member-owned company today and is benchmarked in the top 2% of property casualty carriers in the country, so we're proud of that. But back home, Pinnacle is one of our state's flagship civic and workforce development leaders, which is fitting for us because workforce is what we do as a company, but it's also our passion. And we really appreciate the recognition of this foundation for those efforts last year. I will also say that the workforce topic is a great fit for me personally. Throughout my career path and my various affiliations with the state chamber, a group called Colorado Succeeds, which is a coalition of industry leaders that are tactfully, in a collaborative way, pushing on education reform, also on a state commission to champion career-connected learning, and on my kids' school district foundation. I'm just a workforce guy, so really happy to be here.
Well, thank you both for being here for this conversation. As we know, the landscape of work is changing faster than ever. So I'm curious, from your unique vantage points, both IBM's global reach and Pinnacle's local focus in the insurance space, what do you think is the single greatest driver for the need for upskilling, and how is your company responding to that? And Lydia, I'd like to start with you.
Sure. So what we're seeing now, if you look at some of the recent reports that have come out, either the jobs report from the World Economic Forum or Canaries in the Coal Mine from Stanford, and others that are recent, we see the impact that AI is starting to have on the workforce. IBM's Institute for Business Values did a survey of CEOs that showed they believe that up to 75% of their workforce will need upskilling as a result of AI's impact on the workforce over the next 3 years. And so through multiple efforts at IBM, we are working to meet that need. We do it both internally at IBM for IBMers through things like our Watson X Challenge, where we have to learn our own technology and work in teams to figure out ways to become more productive and apply that technology, or the kinds of things that we're doing externally through Skills Build, whether they are for adult learners or the work that we're doing with universities or with high schools. We have challenges, we have upskilling opportunities for university professors and system leaders. We're working with statewide organizations on both planning, but also the programmatic elements. Making sure that from an individual standpoint, whether it's around productivity or an organizational standpoint for operations and administration, that the upskilling that needs to happen and the transformation with AI is something that everyone has access to. Not only the largest companies like IBM who have these big initiatives, but that we're also able to provide that through our corporate social responsibility efforts and others to small and medium-sized businesses or other nonprofits, school districts, and other kinds of organizations that need to make sure their employees and their constituents have the upskilling opportunities that they need.
Great, thanks. How about from you, Wes?
Yeah, I think all of that's right, Lydia. And I'm going to come at this more from an anecdotal standpoint as the general business guy, sure, and then talk more about the how with Pinnacle and the general business community in a minute. But I want to level set something. And I'm coming at this, again, as a business guy and a fan of higher education. Higher education for me opened doors that I didn't even know existed. I feel the same way about our K-12 system. Yeah. I'm on my kids' district foundation for the same reason. But let's level set on what we're asking students today. 17 and 18-year-old kids, trends that matter. We're asking them to invest $30,000 a year, money that they don't yet have, to go study Shakespearean literature to become a business or a finance major, in the hopes that they'll pay that off and then be an active contributor in our housing market by their early to mid-30s. Anybody in this room want to guess what the average home price is in the state of Colorado? It's the mid 500 to 600s. What the heck are we doing? And here's the trend that matters. Kids and their parents are voting with their feet on this. And that's why so many employers are moving to skills-based hiring. That Pinnacle is, state of Colorado itself is, as a major employer. But there's a lot of opportunity in that, because I know that there's a lot of friction between education and business, a lot of finger pointing. We found in our experience that if we collaborate together, educators agree with us. They also want what's in the best interest of our young people and future leaders in our community and in our economy. And I think that there's a generational opportunity for business to define what skills-based hiring looks like as the nexus between K-12 higher education and our economy.
I'd love to dive into that deeper, but first, Lydia, you mentioned a few things, including one of IBM's big goals around skilling 30 million people by 2030, with a significant focus on AI. Could you talk a little bit more about your P-Tech program and your skills build models and how that helps address both the needs for broad-based and specialized skills? And how are those programs really helping prepare people for the jobs of the future?
Sure. So our P-Tech model is something we started about 13 years ago, and it has really transformed. It's something we started, rolled out, and then it's been taken up by states across the country. It's really an early college model, a pathways program. We took that, leveraged it, and then really expanded Skills Build globally, which is online learning. We offer it through partners and also directly for people who are interested in coming and learning for free. We really believe you need that combination, the combination of technical skills, whether they're AI specific or AI adjacent, things like understanding data analytics, cybersecurity, and applications, everything from prompt engineering and how to apply for AI for productivity, generative AI, predictive AI, and other forms. And then those workplace skills, right? The more that we see portions of jobs becoming automated as a result of AI, we'll be leaning much more heavily on human skills. Understanding good project management, collaboration, communication, design thinking, those things that people are uniquely good at doing. And so we offer both. But I think one of the things to add on about skills-based hiring is IBM eliminated the 4-year degree requirement from the majority of our US jobs postings quite some time ago. And we did it because our CEO believes that talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not.
Yeah.
And so having that 4-year degree requirement as a barrier for people who are capable of doing the job, but just may not have earned that degree for all the reasons we know people go to college and for some reasons have to step out. Maybe or maybe not, they come back. They learn on the job when they're working. They learn in many other ways. So being able to show that you can do the job and not just that you have had the job are really important. This need for our training programs to have not just the learning, but also the applied components, so that students, whether you're in college, whether you're a learner in an adult workforce program, have some component that allows you to apply what you've learned, demonstrate it, put it in some sort of a portfolio that you can share with an employer, that you can share with a higher education institution, to show your skills and abilities and your knowledge. It's no longer just a degree, right? It's not just the piece of paper you earn after 4 years. You learn along the way. We believe in tying micro-credentials as a way to demonstrate what you've learned in increments so that you have something to show beyond your degree or in addition to your degree. And we don't think it has to be an either or. We work with a lot of universities that are now integrating digital credentials and pathways into the degree programs, so that students are both getting that employer-recognized credential on their way to earning a degree. Yeah. And so I think we need to look at the different kinds of pathways and the different signals that employers are looking for, but it really is that applied learning. And I think we'll see more and more of that, especially as we see the acceleration of change in jobs, particularly those jobs that we had called, entry-level roles. As those transition quickly, we'll see more of an emphasis on people earning credentials that signify what they're able to do so that they are prepared for employment.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that phrase, talent is everywhere, opportunity is not. And one of your colleagues, Ben Gehrig, said in a meeting I was with him recently, college might not be for everyone, but college credit is. And so this idea of the micro-credentials, other opportunities in which people can continue to build their skill set is really important. So I want to talk a little bit about how Pinnacle is doing this. You guys took a bit of a unique approach for talent development and building one of the largest youth apprenticeship programs in the state of Colorado, which has become a national model. So could you elaborate a little bit about why Pinnacle decided to focus on attracting and upskilling young talent, and what have been some of the key successes and key challenges within this initiative?
Thank you, and that's a great segue from where Lydia was heading with this. It's Pinnacle's philosophy that, of course, we do well when those that we serve do well. We don't want to just be in those rooms. We want to be working alongside the leaders in those rooms to really understand what talent and opportunity looks like. And so Pinnacle's apprenticeship program was inspired by a leadership exchange visit over to Switzerland in 2017, to the motherland of all apprenticeship programs. And I think civic leaders in our state recognize that
iLab,
our education system, of course, looks much different in the United States than it does in European models, but still are there some elements that we could bring home in the world of career-connected learning, specifically apprenticeship programs, to solve for, at the time, a very pronounced shortage of workforce. It was a 2-to-1 shortage in Colorado overall. For Pinnacle specifically, we had an aging workforce. This was pre-pandemic. And more to the point, when we all grow up to be things, we want to be nurses and doctors and lawyers and those kind of things. We don't necessarily grow up to work in insurance or even know what a workers' compensation company is or what an underwriter does. I still don't know what they do, but God bless them. So we got to work, and we partnered with an intermediary, CareerWise USA, who has been a tremendous partner from day one to really engage youth in our communities who weren't looking at college right away, and they didn't quite know what that next step was. Well, hey, come aboard. Let's earn a competitive wage. These are U.S. DOL registered apprenticeship programs, so there's transferable credentials that can go across the economy. We can also introduce you to our partners in higher education, if that's a path that you want to pursue. In the meantime, we're a pretty cool company to work for, and it's been wildly successful. As you mentioned, it's grown into the largest youth apprenticeship program in the state, which is very unique for an insurance company, obviously. Our team has worked with 18 high schools across 6 different school districts, 6 or 7 higher education partners, and more than 85% of the apprentices that we hire full-time represent BIPOC communities. And so it's a very unique way to connect with our community in that way. I will also say that we've learned more as an organization about the muscle, and I'll coin that term with one of our HR leaders in the room. We've developed a muscle to understand change and adaptability based on our hands-on working with an apprenticeship program.
Amazing. You mentioned earlier, and I think this has kind of come through in both of your remarks, there's a lot of need for collaboration in order for these things to be successful, right? 30 million people, largest apprenticeship program in the state. So I'll start with you, Wes. From a regional perspective, you're engaged with several business-led coalitions who prioritize public policy to support this work. How important is business engagement in building a strong workforce policy, and what are some examples of where that kind of collaborative effort has really been successful in pushing along some of these initiatives?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll start with Colorado Succeeds, and Lydia, you and Nikki both have experience in working directly with Colorado Succeeds, and appreciate that. We're beyond the fluff and stuff in the public policy world. We're leaning in to codify things like ISCED standards, which are unique here, to support skills-based hiring. And in the spirit of collaboration, it's actually our state, Department of Higher Education that is helping to develop what that looks like, which is very unique. We're codifying longitudinal data systems to not only track education progress, but to track experience progress throughout a learner's entire career, which also helps employers identify where the skills clusters are at and where the gaps could be in the future to focus our efforts. Our state chamber of commerce is doing a wonderful job because this gets pretty noisy pretty quick, right? Part of getting the employer's attention is storytelling.
Right.
And we've got a lot of great stars in the constellation. We need to pull those stars closer together so that it's, I heard the word this morning, simple, more simple for employers to understand. And so the state chamber is taking the conversation to our communities in those regions with a homegrown talent philosophy, right? So a cross-section of industries might look different in northern Colorado than parts of southern Colorado or the western slope, for instance. And so what that's doing is it's clustering, it's identifying leaders, partnership opportunities. We're also bringing our higher ed and our K-12 leaders to that table. We're inviting our state leaders to the table to inform future public policy and grant opportunities, and they help pay for the darn thing, which is really nice too. But we just have to take by the bull by the horns and keep moving. I think that there's a huge role for business to push on public policy to support this work.
Yep. And just one thing I want to pull on a thread there too is that the key piece of that is business leading in that means business providing information, and information is what drives policy, and policy is what drives funding, which is what drives the programs that are available in your local regions, right?
100%.
And so when we're able to really clearly articulate what our needs are as a business community, we see better outcomes that are aligned to our needs.
100%.
So Lydia, thinking about this from a global or a national perspective, what do you think are some of the most effective regional and national policy levers to help encourage upskilling as a priority? And how can businesses and governments work together to scale successful models?
Sure. Well, I think this coalition model, and the chamber leads a lot of these coalitions around the U.S. and even internationally through the AmCham. So, I'm a big supporter of the chamber as a convener and using the voice and power of its members to really represent what business can bring to the table and what businesses need in order to drive strong local and regional economies. But it's that information, right? So it's where the jobs are, what exactly is needed for those job roles in order to drive business, drive economic growth, have those pathways for economic opportunity and mobility, and then make sure that there are opportunities, both public and private, for people to engage in the training that's needed to prepare people for those jobs that are available. We do have, obviously, in the US, some public data sets that start to inform that work, but I think having information directly from industry at a state and local level as well as a national level, a grain size that is appropriate for local decision makers to be able to drive dollars where they're needed most. It's one thing for us to have federal policy, but we've got to be able to translate that into local needs that are specific to what's needed where people are. There are all kinds of new, I guess the ideas are not necessarily new, but some of the policies that are being passed are new around, training accounts and other ways. But we believe that, for instance, through Skills Build, we're providing a lot of opportunity for training for free. Take those dollars for paid training and use them to add on to what you can get for free. We had done a survey a couple of years ago with Morning Consult, and we found about 50% of people thought a job in tech was not for them, it was too expensive, and they didn't know where to start. And it's one of the things that surprised us. So we said, start with us, get the foundation you need. We have free courses on AI fundamentals, on cybersecurity fundamentals, data analytics. We have 2 certificates, again, one on cyber, one on data analytics. We helped to develop with Colorado, Alabama, Louisiana, and California, so that there were those bridges for people from where they are to the jobs that they're interested in data and cyber, reviewed by ACE, carrying with them. One has 8 recommended college credits and the other 12. But we looked at what was needed in the market. We developed something that filled a gap. This was, a public-private partnership, including some support with, a partner, Jobs for the Future, to fill a need. We believe this is the kind of thing that businesses do well, where business can lead, and we can bring others with us. We work closely with our clients and our partners on similar kinds of skilling initiatives. But absolutely taking those and then translating them into pilots. This is the kind of thing I know you do with TPM. And then seeing how you make that part of the system and really look for systems change.
Absolutely. You started to touch on this, a great pivot to my next question. AI, hot topic right now, right? Not impacting the way any of us are doing work. Lydia, how do you see that AI is actually reshaping the skills that employees are looking for and that job seekers need? And kind of how is IBM, if you could go a little bit deeper, leveraging AI in workforce development?
So first, I'll start with what's expected of us as IBMers is to look at all the ways that we can, with approved technology. So I would say we do a lot around governance and responsible use of AI. And happy to talk to people more at a later time if you're considering what are the internal kinds of approaches and policies you need before you start implementing to make sure that you're keeping your data and your business safe. But beyond that, we are expected to become as facile and productive as we can using, again, different tools that use AI so that we can free up time to do those things I mentioned earlier that are uniquely human. Mm-hmm. The collaboration, the strategic planning, the design thinking kinds of exercises where we are looking at, can you take 30% of your time that's spent on repetitive or routine tasks or the kinds of summaries and analyses and insights that would be generated. Can you use tools to do that work, save yourself time, and then apply it in ways that you're doing teamwork and other things? What I would say is we have to make sure that as we look at transformation of jobs, we don't lose sight of making sure that people know how to use the tools and don't lose that human in the loop where people are in charge of the technology and using it where it is needed most, but also using their critical thinking to make sure it's applied in the right way. And so making sure that people are making decisions and reviewing what does good look like, not just use it, accept whatever it gives you, and move on. So that's something where, the recent report from Lightcast that talks about the broken rung on the career ladder these lower rungs where people are learning what good looks like from their managers, from senior people in the business, we have to make sure we preserve those kinds of mentoring relationships and other things as jobs change.
Absolutely.
So there's a role for business to play there. There's a role for making sure that we don't skip over the relationships that are needed to make sure that entry level roles, as they level up, people who are in those roles still learn what does good look like for my role for these tasks while I'm leveraging this technology that is newer.
Absolutely.
So I'll stop there. I'm sure we'll get back to it. But we're looking at how we use it every day. We're offering courses for free externally for people to start doing that, and then we're working with our colleagues and partners around the world to talk about how are they doing it, what's needed, how is talent acquisition changing, how is preparation changing, and how is higher ed changing, and other ways that we are looking at pathways into employment.
Right. I always say sometimes ChatGPT is the best intern I've ever had. So really, utilizing it alongside your skill set. So Wes, you mentioned you sit on a few different boards. So I'd like to kind of ask you a similar question, but both from Pinnacle's perspective and across the state of Colorado. How are you seeing that AI is influencing businesses within the state, particularly those that are not tech businesses, right? Yeah. They're thinking about this maybe for the first time. There are a lot of rural areas within Colorado. What are you seeing happening there, and how might AI be deployed in the coming years?
That's a great question. I'm going to stay in my lane on this one, especially with IBM on the phone here. I've learned a lot about AI that I never thought I would learn because of the conversations that we're having in Colorado from a regulatory perspective, and I will offer this. I think we would all agree in this room that the development of AI is developed at a global level by global companies that are doing business internationally. Where would be the most practical place to begin regulating that framework? We do need regulatory framework on this topic. Probably down the street, over here. Not your state would not be the best place to start regulating a global topic, which is exactly what we did in Colorado 2 years ago. Colorado became the first state in the country to sort of offer a sweeping regulatory framework for both the developers of AI, IBMs, the Amazon, Googles, and the deployers of AI. Could be your small business down the street. It's been a complete mess because we don't even know what the definitions are. Because again, these systems as a deployer, right? Like we're dependent on the integrity of the product that is being developed. It's almost impossible. And so I would strongly recommend that if this conversation kicks up in your state, keep that in mind. And if these folks don't act soon, because we do need strong disclosures, we need to make sure that AI is not being discriminatory. All of the things, human oversight, all the things that Lydia mentioned, that framework needs to be developed here so that states have more certainty in how to figure out this path forward. Otherwise, it's just going to be a complete patchwork, and it's going to be very difficult to unwind, and this stuff is moving very, very, very fast.
With that in mind, I'd love in our last minute, is there any advice you might give to businesses, workforce organizations on kind of getting started in the space, thinking about upskilling, thinking about AI as a component of that?
Yeah, very quickly, just generally to career-connected learning and experiences from Pinnacle. Make sure that you have leadership buy-in from at the very top levels. A successful program requires cultural integration across the entire organization, and that will yield benefits that you won't even think about today in terms of leadership development within your own organization. We've had 50 or 60 coaches, supervisors, mentors along the way with our apprenticeship program, for instance. That's been huge. And fail fast, y'all. That's what we expect of our employees. Let's also just be willing to fail fast. It's okay, because it's better to get moving and learn and adapt than it would be to try to overanalyze this stuff and not move at all, because none of it's going to be perfect. Let's just go. Move.
And Lydia, any words of advice?
Sure. I would say reach out to us if you haven't. If for upskilling, we'd love to have you with us with Skills Build. for thinking about how you're approaching implementation. It's just like any other change management process. You start with what it is you're trying to do, and then you think about how you're using the technology. You put the frameworks in place, and then you move forward. It doesn't have to take a long time. We have responsible business frameworks for use of AI in your organization, and happy to share those frameworks with you. My colleague in IBM Consulting, Phaedra Boinadatis, does a lot of that work, and I know that we've done some of that with the Chamber. So have your frameworks in place, understand responsible use, put a plan in place before you start on the transformation, get your employees and your colleagues the upskilling that they need. You can get some for free, and there's some that's out there that's paid, but make sure you get started. Start somewhere, start today. We'd love it to be with us with IBM.
Amazing. Well, thank you both, Lydia and Wes, for your time today, and to you, the audience, for joining us. Please enjoy the rest of Business Solves 2025.
Thank you.
Good job. We're going to go this way.